Luz Espiet, my child. Knowing there's another life in me that I helped create, knowing God sent you to me saved my life's current state. I think of you every day now. Can't wait to see your smile, hear your laughs, and love on you as I caress the curves on your precious little face so gently. You know, before I meet you, I know someone who knew you first. By that I mean that nothing of you will be a mistake. You're amazing in his sight and great in mine. All of your features are a part of his miraculous signs, so intricate as a clock and its ticking time. I loved you before I knew you. I love you now, and as you grow, you'll always be my precious little baby in all your ways and in all his views. I hope it always shows.
Thank you for tuning in to Uncommon Women. I'm Shanera.
And I'm Jenny Lee.
So today we're actually going to be doing episode 30. We have a guest speaker by the name of Jate Winky, 36, born and raised in Chester County, currently a CDL driver for disabled and elderly. She's a single mother of 2 and a founder of a local support group for parents with special needs children in Chester County. So today she's actually going to share her story of having a daughter with special needs. But before we get into that, can you tell us a little bit about your childhood?
I am the oldest child of 4. I have 2 younger brothers and a younger sister. Primarily, we were raised by a single mother. My childhood was mixed, there's good and bad. At the age of 22, because of, I think, certain childhood experiences caused me to do what I see a lot. It caused me to kind of chase after that love and fill that void. And so at the age of, like I said, 22, I became a mother of my first child. And when I was pregnant, of course, you have all these, especially when I found out I was a girl, oh my goodness, we're going to go to the nail shop, and when she's 60, I'm going to buy her the car that my mom did buy me, and all these things. And, oh, she's going to be a cheerleader, and you just have all these, pictures and visions and things. But my story was a little different. When my daughter turned 4 months, through a routine checkup with her pediatrician, we found out there were possible issues, and found out later on that she was born with a condition called ft.Poetic dysplasia, and that condition caused her to be blind. It is a birth defect, and it affected the left side of her cerebellum, and that caused her to be blind. She has growth hormone deficiency. She has thyroid deficiency. She has a condition called diabetes insipidus. She has a condition called Chiari malformation. And like I said, she is, my baby's right now, she's 13, but my daughter is incontinent, so I'm still doing the whole, potty train thing with her. And she does not eat by mouth, so she eats through a G2 button placed in her stomach.
So how did you feel as being a single mom, your baby being at only 4 months, and finding out that your daughter can't really see? So how did that make you feel at that moment?
The initial was hurt, shock, because I think even though we hear and we see of babies being born with defects, I don't think, I'm going to say for me, it never crossed my mind while I was pregnant. Well, what if your baby comes out with some kind of birth defect? It never crossed my mind. And then for the doctor to further explain to me, this ft.Poetic dysplasia, 1 in every 10,000 babies are going to, have been and are going to be born with it.
Wow, what are the odds?
You wouldn't think that, okay, I got that 1 in 10,000. 10,000 seems like a big number, but not when you're talking about a birth defect, I remember I won't say being mad with God, but I do remember saying, don't you think I've been through enough? And then you do this, but I remember, I'm like, and then this? I'm like, all that I've been through, and then this. So it was like, it was a lot going on. I remember, just like, I think I called my brother first. And he, guys are different. And I remember him saying, he was like the whole wow. And he was like, but, it's going to be all right. So he was a help.
Trying to lift you up.
Yeah, right. He was like, but, he was like, we're going to be all right. But at first, like, I was so hurt. And then, like I said, when I was pregnant, I thought about all the excitement and all the things we were going to do. And then kind of immediately, I started thinking of all the things she'll never do.
Wow.
My daughter will never drive.
The enemy.
My daughter won't have a normal life. My daughter, I just thought, like I said, all the nevers. Oh, she won't be able to. Oh,
the
she
negativity kicked in.
Yeah, oh, she can't. And like I said, this was initially, like, I never... And now I have a completely different story. But just being honest, initially, I'm like, it was all bad. It was all bad. Yeah, so.
So when they told you had to do the whole G-tube thing, did you expect, like, did they have an aide come in and do that for you, or?
No. We, at age 2, that's when the feeding tube came into place because... most children are eating, quote unquote normal foods. She was not eating anything by mouth. And we were, at that time, they were telling us to give her Pediasure. Okay. She wasn't drinking the Pediasure. And literally, I was told by the GI, like, we have to give her a feeding tube because she won't survive at this rate. You can't survive if you don't eat. So I remember them placing originally, because there's 2 types of feeding tubes. There's an NG tube, which is placed through the nostril. And then there's a G tube, which is placed in the stomach.
Yes.
So initially we started with the NG tube, and there was no aide, there was no nurse. And they were like, come on down and chop, and we're going to, give you this class on how to place the NG tube, because they come out, especially when a child is that young and they're not used to it. My daughter would pull it out.
Wow.
Yeah, pull it out, and think about it. You can't, run back and forth every time. Or what if it's the middle of the night?
Right.
So you have to know how to place that NG tube in the event that it pulls out. It comes out. So like I said, there was a class, and I spent the day there, and they taught me how to do it, and that was that. So 5 times a day, that's what we were doing. And we started out with, it's called a feeding pump. Okay. And I just have to be honest, I hated it. I hated the pump because literally this thing, it reminds you of an IV machine. That's exactly what it looks like. And you attach the extension to the tube, and you pour the formula in this, what looks like an IV bag, and then you hang it on what looks like the IV machine. That's the best way I can explain it. And then, you set it on whatever setting, the doctor tells you to. And then this was her nighttime feed I didn't like. Because if it got tangled, now remember, this is a sleeping child, so she's rolling, she's moving over.
Wow, yeah.
So if this thing, gets kinked, gets rolled on, now this alarm is going off, okay? So now you got to get out the bed, and you got to go find the kink, or sometimes it's a machine. The machine has malfunction, and it's error, 605 or whatever, and you got to figure it out. And there were some nights, no exaggeration, it felt like I would get out of bed, and before my body was back in the bed, the alarm was going back off again. Wow. And some nights you just could not figure out what was going on with this thing. And I was a working mom. So it was worse than, when you were getting up every 2 hours with the infant. Like I said, so it wasn't fun at first, but now, like I said, she started with the NG tube. Now, And the NG tube is not a permanent thing.
Okay.
The goal is to, when a feeding tube is placed, they want them to get to a point where they are eating on their own. It is never supposed to be, or they never want it to be a forever thing.
Okay.
So the goal is to, okay, this is how we're going to kind of substitute and make up for what they're not doing. But our goal is still to get them to eat on their own.
Right.
But when a child or a person, it doesn't go as planned, and okay, we're not having success, then that's when she had to go in and get the surgery and have the G tube placed, because that's more of a long-term basis, which it is so much easier. Because now we don't have to, we do what's called bolus feeds, where I'm not dealing with the machine and the pump and the bag.
So is it just an injection that you're doing into the tube? Is that correct?
It's
feeding her?
The best way I can describe it, for those who don't know, she has like literally, they get her a little incision, and they place the button in her stomach. It's called a Mickey button. And there is, there's a place where you insert an attachment. So I have this, this attachment, and I attach it to the G tube, and then I stick a syringe into the attachment. And I pour the formula in, and it takes about 10 minutes, and we're done. And we do that 5 times a day.
Now, does she ever throw up?
Not now, but that was issue when we had the NG tube.
Okay.
When we had the NG tube, and then when the vomiting, oh my gosh, it would be so scary. When you have the vomiting and this NG tube placed in the nostril, guess what? Now she just threw up this NG tube, and we're talking like projectile. Okay. And it was, I hated it, because when you have to place the NG tube, you watch your baby gagging and crying, and it's just, it's awful. It's awful. But it's one of those things that have to be done. But I hated the NG tube.
Wow. So, being as though you had some challenges with that, what do you think, what is some of the other challenges you had in regards to her being blind? And then you said you have another child, so the age difference in that, and what challenges you may have had having 2 children and being a single parent, how did that work?
So my children are 2.5 years apart. So when my son was born, I was in a relationship, so I wasn't a single mother at the time, but things didn't work out. So when he was about 8 or 9 months, then I became the single mom of 2 children. My daughter was, like I said, 2.5. So and she was a tiny little thing. She was always underweight and smaller than what she should have been.
The requirement.
Right, exactly. Exactly. She was never, it was just as of the last couple of years, she's been in her percentile as far as age and height and weight and all that. Right. So, like I said, now I'm a single mom of 2 children. I'm carrying an infant seat, and I got my 2.5-year-old on my hip. Yeah, so it was hard. Especially during time, grocery store days and things like that. But one of the biggest difficulties was it affected the way I could work, as far as having a child with special needs, because my daughter couldn't go to quote unquote regular daycare. I have this baby, and then later on Tyler, who is fed through a tube, takes daily medication, is blind. First of all, a quote-unquote normal daycare is not trained to do things like tubes and things like that. So for a big majority of her younger life, I wasn't able to work, and then thank God, when she was about 9 months, I had an aunt that she was just like amazing. And even before, she was my daughter's first babysitter. That's when I was able to start working and kind of work regularly. But even before then, like, I was having to go back and forth to CHOP and, like I said, do classes to find out this and learn how to do this, or just go to this appointment. and she was riding the child with me, just being there to support me. You know what I mean? And like I said, and then Shiva came. She was my daughter's first babysitter, and then I was able to work, and she helped me for years. So she was definitely a blessing. Because like I said, like, it affected the way I was able to work, but without her, I wouldn't have been able to, I'm not going to say ever, but what I would have done or how I would have figured it out, like, because not too many people, and it had nothing to do with, love and who wanted to help me, but that's a lot. It's a lot. You know what I mean? And even an aunt or a mom or whoever, I'm dealing with how to figure it out, and I'm kind of not scared, but it is scary. It's like, well, Dora, like, she's got this, she's blind, and people are skeptical or scared or nervous or whatever, so she really, out of love, and she stepped up, you know what I mean, and she gave my daughter feeding through the feeding tube and shots and all that, because I was.
So she got shots too.
Yeah, that earlier I had mentioned she has growth hormone deficiency, and that is actually, that medication is an injection every night. Every night she gets an injection. So yeah, it was a lot for anybody, and like I said, I just really appreciate her, because on time, it wasn't, anytime you become a parent, or I'm not even gonna say a parent, but I had to support my children.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, and then I have this unique situation.
Yeah.
So now I got this, even greater
Extra
dilemma. You know what I mean? So, like I said, it was just a lot to figure out. But
that's good. Now, with her being your support system, did you have anyone else on your side in regards to helping out?
My sister, she was really, really young, but it was cute. She did what she could, so she would come stay the night with me, and she just loved her niece. Like, she would, and then when she got a little older, and it would always be at nighttime, because I would always be like, to get a babysitter, because it's like, I'm a mom, but, I still, even if it wasn't work right. So it would always be like, I always made sure, like, she had all her feeds, or, by the time I need you, she'll be asleep. You know what I mean? But yeah, my little sister, who's now 23, but when she got old enough to be a babysitter, her and one of my little cousins would come, and they would help me. Yep. And it was, of course, it was restricted. It was like, I might only can be going 2 hours, but thank God for these 2 hours. You know what I mean? Yeah. Thank God till 11 o'clock, so I did have people. And then I had another aunt. She did the same thing for me, and of course the adult was for the longer periods. It's like, maybe I wanted to go take a little mini trip or whatever, and I wanted to stay the night somewhere. My sister's not old enough, so I had an aunt that she would keep my daughter overnight for me. Yeah.
Okay. That's good. And how about your son? Was he supportive? And did you have to explain to him, like, when he was, what age did you explain to him about his older, like, you know what I'm saying, his older sister having special needs, can't see? Like, when did you introduce that lifestyle to him for him to understand?
I think when he understood, probably first grade.
First grade?
First grade. Because, he was little, so up until a certain age, he wouldn't understood, and he didn't care. He didn't ask questions at first. He was just like, I play with my sister. His young mind probably noticed, like, oh, she's not running around like me, or she can't swing herself on a swing like I do, or she can't go up this ladder and slide down the slide. No, he didn't.
Wow, that's good.
He never did, but I kind of explained it on my own because I started to notice that he was getting questions. Like, so say if we would be at the park or a school event or just whatever, they would be like, well, what's wrong with your sister? What's wrong with your sister's eyes? Because my daughter, her eyes, because she's blind, she has a lot of random eye movement. Yeah. So little kids, then they don't know.
They don't know, right?
I'm like, what's wrong with your sister's eyes? sister? Why is your sister
They're
looking?
innocent, but
Yeah,
they don't,
right. They're just asking,
Yeah.
why is your sister looking down? And she's, I even heard someone saying, is your sister asleep? Stuff like that. And he would just so innocently say, no, she's blind.
Aww.
Yeah,
Aww.
but he didn't really
get the concept
right,
of it. Yeah.
Exactly. Of course, my son, my other baby, he's 11 now, so now he knows and he understands
details of everything.
Yeah, the details of everything. But yeah.
Well, that's great that he does. That he helps you out.
Oh yeah, he is like it's so, and it's funny because my daughter is special needs and she's different, but I mean, in her own way, but she's no different from the typical 13-year-old and 11-year-old. You still catch them, riffing with each other.
Really?
And her too.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
She be getting with him?
Yeah. She know it's funny because like she knows it. Jayla, let me go. She has this thing where she like rough, but it's on. But she be playing, and so she'll be laughing because she know, and she'll like pull him hard in by the neck, and she'll be like, "Jayla, let go of my neck." So they still interact like
That's
the typical
awesome.
siblings.
Wow.
It's so cute because even at he's 11, but I'll look up in my mirror as I'm driving, and you'll catch him holding hands.
Aww.
Yeah, so, and then when he was little, and, as they get bigger, Chanel, you have a son, so, they love you, but they're big boys now. But when he was little, he would pick us flowers.
Aww.
He would pick us flowers and stuff, but, yeah, he is really awesome.
That's awesome.
And he's kind of my eyes, like, say I'm in the kitchen cooking, and she started doing something, he's like, Jayla, you ain't supposed to be. Yeah, so he is a big help. He is such a big help. And I never forget, and she didn't even know, this is how messy people are. But I never forget, I was at one of my aunt's house, and my other aunt called her, and this is when I was pregnant with my son, my second child. And she put her on speakerphone, and my aunt that was on the phone was, Tay, why didn't you tell me Tay was pregnant again? And how's she gonna have another baby? And she got that little girl, and she got stuff wrong with her, and this and that, and blah blah blah. I'm like, oh well, wow. But literally, and I had people even ask me, well, aren't you scared? Your second baby's gonna be born with something wrong with it. And I never forget. I remember literally my answer was, I was like, God wouldn't do that to me twice. Not saying that it was like some kind of punishment.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm not thinking about that because I know God is not going to allow that again.
Exactly.
And literally and foolishly, the second time, I have to be honest, I got pregnant on purpose. Not the smartest thing because, but I remember my reasoning. I remember, because I have two brothers and I have a younger sister. And me and my younger but oldest brother are 2 years apart. And now I'm 36. Now he is 33. And I just remember the relationship we had. And I remember the relationship that we have now. And I never forget. And I knew I was going to have a boy. And I said, because God forbid something happens to me, I said, I want my daughter to have her brother to take care of her.
Aww.
Like, because I literally, I remember how me and my brother were. Especially in bad times, even as kids and going through certain things. Like, even at a young age, I remember us holding on to each other physically, emotionally. Like, so I was just like, I want my daughter to have a brother to take care of her. So, yeah.
And look, it all worked out in the long run.
Right.
So how is it? All right, so 13 and 11 now. What is your day like when you have to go somewhere, like to a picnic? It's summertime now. Y'all go to cookouts. Like, do you have to pack a whole bunch of stuff, or is it just a get and go type thing? What is your day-to-day life with leaving the house and stuff like that?
Day to day, I'll start with like a typical day. My daughter, she attends school just like any other child. She attends a school for the blind.
Okay.
So I'm getting her up. In addition to getting her dressed, giving her morning meds, and I'm giving her morning feeds. I'm putting her on the bus, and get my other child ready. Then I'm going to work, and I'm coming home, and I'm doing it kind of all over again throughout the day. I always joke, because I'm like, I'm a mom, but I'm a nurse too. Because I'm like, I'm giving morning meds, I'm giving feeding tubes, I'm giving injections and medications day and night. But so that's the typical day. When we go out, no, it is not get up and go. The best way I can describe it is when they were smaller and you had to pack the bag. Make sure you got the formula. Make sure you got the now pull-ups, because if you forget anything and it's going downhill. So literally, and I remember, I know a lot of people's like, I can't wait till they get bigger and I don't have to lug this bag around or I don't have to stress about trying to remember this but no, I still, I calculate how long we're going to be out because she gets a feed every 3 hours. So I'm like, okay, we're going to be there 3 hours. Obviously, we need one. If it's longer, I got to take 2. So I'm doing all this mental work, making sure, okay, she's, toileted every 2 hours. How many pull-ups will I need? Let me take the change of clothes just in case we have an accident.
Right.
And like I said, and there have been times when I've gotten to wherever we were going and I didn't grab the formula. Wow. And it's not like with my son, let's go to McDonald's. No, guess what? Now we have to go home.
Does she communicate when she's hungry?
No, I always joke with her. I'm like, Jayla, aren't you hungry? Because I know me, like, and it makes me wonder, does she know what the feeling of hunger feels like, or does she not? Because like she's getting fed on this 3 hours.
You're feeding her when she needs to be fed
every 3 hours. I'm like, aren't you hungry? Like that. Like I know how I can change when I'm hungry.
Right.
But no, I guess because of the whole schedule thing, no.
And at your most challenging time, has there ever been that most time where you just not forgot her feeding, but also pull-ups or a set of clothing?
Yeah, like I said, like there has been times where I forgot to change her clothes, and she just flooded through both the pull-ups and the pants. And I don't have any clothes, so again, we're going home. And sometimes, we could be far away, or we could be in the middle of something, and it's like, now everything just got turned around. Everything's coming to a halt or a complete stop, and that's it, guys. Not going to happen the way we wanted it to, or not going to happen the way I wanted it to.
Right.
So, yeah.
I have another question. Her behavior, with her, her special needs. Does she behave in any ways? Does she lash out sometimes?
Absolutely. And she's 13 now, and
she give you attitude as a girl?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering.
Yeah, like I said, she is funny because she's special needs, but she's still a 13-year-old girl.
Yeah, yes.
Exactly. So she has an attitude, just like the rest of the 13-year-old girls walking around, just like I had when I was 13. So yeah, we bump heads, And like I said, I kind of went through the list of all her things.
Yeah, I remember that.
But just recently, because she has an IEP in school.
Okay.
So I would say with probably about a year and a half ago, one of the things that came up, they said they think she's on the autism spectrum. So I am starting to notice but I wouldn't say she has behavior problems, but I am starting to notice maybe tendencies, behaviors, because of course I started reading, so I'm like, well, you know what, she does that, so she doesn't do the, sometimes when people say that she had behavior issues, because sometimes they're combative towards others or things like that. She's not combative or anything like that. For the most part, she doesn't do the self-harm thing.
Okay.
But I have noticed one of her things when she's not happy, you'll catch her clenching her hands together, or at one point, and I got her to stop, but she's really, 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 really irritated about something, I've caught her biting herself.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And things like that. She used to hit herself. And that's still here and there, but it's really, because like I said, she's very, very smart, and she follows directions very well. So I kind of have minimized that, but like I said, if it's really, really, really one of her bad moments, then I'll catch her doing those things. But for the most part, she's really good.
Okay, that is great. That is great. Yes.
So what advice can you give women in your shoes that's going through what you're going through, or possibly experienced, or maybe have children with special needs?
The advice I would give women in my shoes is, as cliche as it sounds, is to just take it one day at a time. Because that's honestly the best way to do it. If you don't, you're going to become overwhelmed. Secondly, resources. Ask about resources, because they are out there, but they are not always shared voluntarily the way that I feel that they should be. I know one of my biggest obstacles in the beginning was, with having to buy formula on my own, and me having a 5-year-old and pull-ups and things like that, and buying out of pocket. And it wasn't until later on that I found out, oh no, just get your doctor to write a prescription. Wow. And your insurance will pay for these things. And like I said, I just would have assumed that, my pediatrician would have shared that lovely information with me. Exactly. Or if your child is followed by specialists and things like that, because I know as far as my daughter's feeding issues go and her formula, she was followed by GI. Ask these different people that you are seeing and that are, you're in communication with about your child's health and disability and situation. Ask, what resources are there out there? Because they are out there. But you just got to ask, because if you don't know, like I said, it's not going to always be voluntarily given to you. And the last thing is, do not try to do it alone. I know some of us, unfortunately, are in a position where we don't have inner circles of support, but don't let that discourage you, because there are different organizations, there are support groups specifically for parents with special needs, with children with special needs. And I know for me, that was one of my, I won't say obstacles, I think that added to the hurt for me, because it just felt like if I didn't have to do this alone, maybe it wouldn't, I wouldn't have so many bad days, or this wouldn't feel so heavy if I just had somebody there. Because I've learned that anytime for me, going through something, I think for me personally, it worsens it when you have to go through it alone.
Yeah, that's true.
And that
you feel like you don't have anyone in your corner.
Exactly. So, don't get me wrong. I am a super mommy, but in all reality, I have moments where I want to cry, where I might want to have a meltdown. I might after I put my kids to bed, I might want to talk to somebody, vent, just let it out. Let me tell you what happened today. But when you don't have anybody to talk to and share that with, then, on top of you experiencing it, now it's just you just holding it in, And again, I just feel like if I would have had somebody there to help me go through whatever it might have been that day or in that moment, and I didn't have to do it by myself, I just feel like it would have been a little easier for me. And that was the purpose behind me creating the parent support group that I did, called Special Parents with Special Needs. Because I'm just determined that I don't want anyone to feel like they have to do this unique journey alone, or life in general alone. And that's why my motto is a listening ear and a caring heart. because I literally don't want anybody to feel alone. And we hold monthly support group meetings. I am always available via email, telephone. We have a Facebook page. I have created an Instagram page because, like I said, I cannot say it enough that I do not want anybody doing this alone, because I know that makes it so much harder. And I don't want anybody having that feeling. I don't care if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you feel like I'm going to explode. Because it's okay. It's okay to not be okay. Because every day, like I said, I've been doing this 13 years. And yeah, I'm a super mommy. And it's not a burden on me. I don't feel like this is a struggle for me anymore. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But the reality of the situation is every day is not like that. And even if it's not a day, I have moments. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I want everyone in this situation to know that you don't have to go through those moments alone. You know what I mean? So that's why, again, special parents with special needs were created. Was created because we don't just have special children. We are special parents with special needs, you know, because of our special journey. Mm-hmm. So.
And where is this exactly located?
My daughter, the director of my daughter's school is such a blessing because she actually allows me to hold my monthly parent meetings at the Royal Greve School for the Blind in Paoli.
Okay. Paoli, Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Okay. And what days do you typically have your meetings?
We don't have set, it's not like every second Monday.
Okay.
We try to say, we're at a meeting today. We kind of see who's there. Well, what works for everybody next month.
Okay.
So at each meeting, we kind of see,
So do y'all have a group chat? How does people get connected into starting?
Like I said, everybody has everybody's email because it's almost like a I don't want to use the word sponsor, but it kind of reminds you. So everybody has everybody's phone number.
So a parent networking?
Right. So, while I'm available to everybody, Jennifer and Susie might have clicked. Mm-hmm. So they're their go-to people. So we're always available
to someone
for each other.
Right.
Okay. But yeah, as far as the monthly meetings, they're held on a monthly basis, not
depends
set,
on availability.
Exactly,
basically.
on availability, because somebody might be going on vacation, especially that it's summertime.
Right.
We got a lot of vacationing going on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we just kind of we wing it.
And what made you want to start this for parents?
Because again, I just didn't want anybody to feel like they had to go through it alone. Because I remember, and like I said, I did have people who were there from, like I mentioned, aunts and my sister and my brother and things like that. But for the most part, I did feel like I was in this alone. You know what I mean? And even if it wasn't alone, even my support system, I think it's important to have people who can relate.
Understand, yeah.
To because like I said, it's easy to call this person or call that person, but for somebody to be like, I know what you're talking. I had one of those days last week.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Or we get together and don't get me wrong, it's support, but we also get together and we share, like I mentioned,
soothing
resources.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
You know
too.
what I mean? So even though I'm 13 and I know a lot that's out there now. But I've even, my first couple meetings, I learned, did you know that a music therapist would come to your house and insurance pay for? No, I didn't know that.
Wow,
so we get together and we exchange resources.
The knowledge. That's awesome.
You know what I mean? And things like that. Or sometimes we just get together and we just kind of forget it for that hour or two. You know what I mean? We relax and, and this is what we do at the beginning. Does anybody have anything they want to share? Did anybody have not a moment, but did anybody have a difficult moment? And then after that, it's like let's just be in this. Let's just be in this room.
That is so great.
In these walls, and because it is difficult, and yes, it's a big part of our life. Being a parent, period, is a big part of your life.
Yeah.
But that
it's an extra
exactly like
step.
we still, you need that, like you said, that woosah.
Yeah,
because that's what's gonna you might,
especially being single parents too, we're the nurturers, the discipliners, the everything, the whole nine,
And a lot of people don't get that hour or two where they can just. And I have this one, and I'm not going to say her name, but I have this mom. She brings her child. She brings her child. You know, but and that's the thing. Because I've had people like inbox me and think, oh, I can't find a babysitter. Don't get me wrong. This is a parent support group, but don't let that be the reason you stay home. If you got to bring Johnny, then we'll get Johnny a coloring book. If Johnny's able to color, or I don't care if he can and he's got it something. If you want to come, you come. Don't stay home because you can't find a babysitter. You know, because that's what this is all about. Because, you know, we all have those moments where we can't do this because babysitters and things like that. So don't let that be the reason why you stay isolated or alone or by yourself. You know?
That's not good either, staying isolated like that.
Yeah, so.
That's great.
That's good. So before we close up, was one question we do ask all of our guest speakers. And that is going to be, what makes you uncommon?
I believe that what makes me uncommon is that with all the different adversities I faced in my life, I've never allowed it to completely break me. I definitely have things I wish I could do, you know, whatever it may have been. I feel like maybe I stayed in that place too long. I stayed, you know, quote unquote, down too long, but I've never allowed it to completely break me. And I always feel like I come back strong, you know, and I try to learn from everything. I've learned to love everything about myself and to take pride in the strength that I've developed through the things that I've been through. And I feel like that's what makes me the woman that I am and I'm still becoming. And that's what makes me uncommon.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming out and sharing your story in regards to your children and being a young mother, you know, with a daughter that's blind and then finding out she has more than one special needs. And that takes courage. You know, I know it's definitely not easy being in your position, raising two kids. But I want to say I condone you, and you're doing an amazing job. You're doing an amazing job.
Yeah, your story is very inspiring, you know, and it makes me, like, you know, like I have family members that have kids that are with special needs, and gives me a total different perspective.
Yeah.
You know, even working with special needs, it also gives you a great perspective as well. So I really, really applaud you for, you know, taking care of your daughter, you know, and really getting through that, and it shows a lot of women of strength in you.
Well, thank you, and thank you, ladies, for having me.
You're welcome. You can find us on Facebook, on IG, on Uncommon 3 Women. You can also subscribe on iTunes. You can find us on Google Play, and also we're looking for sponsors if there's any events. Or we're also looking for poets, and you can email us at uncommonwomenpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you, listeners, for tuning in, and I'll also post any information that you're looking for in regards to the organization she has that's in Paoli. I'll post that. I'll also post the information in regards to what Jenny was referring to about the sponsors and the poets, and I appreciate everyone that actually takes the time to listen to us. You guys are amazing. So listeners, please remember to stay uncommon.